Hi, good day. This is Justin Pineda, and for today's session, we'll be talking about mobile security threats. So, for the discussion points, we have two topics to discuss. The first one would be the threats. What are the mobile security threats? And the second one would be how to combat them. These are the high level security areas for consideration. Now, let's start with the top security threats of smartphones. Okay, so this is from Nelson 2023. So as an introduction, all right. So let's start with some statistics. So um, first is that mobile devices account for more than 60% of digital fraud, which makes sense because there are a lot of people of all social classes using smartphones to connect to the internet, use social networking sites, and so on. So we have around 6.93 billion people smartphone users in the world. And this is um, translates to 85.68% of people in the world. And when you combine that with those that are using the, the regular phones, it would be something like this. So you have 7.41 mobile phone users in the world today. So this is a combination of um, yeah, the basic cell phone plus the smartphone. So that is around 91.61% of the people in the world. Okay? So that sets the stage on what types of attacks can be launched and how many people can be victimized by the different mobile security threats. So these are some of the mobile security threats that we'll be discussing. So we have chosen some of the top security threats such as data leaks, open Wi-Fi, phishing attacks, spyware, malicious apps, apps with weak security, poor password security, out-of-date devices, identity theft, cryptojacking, and excessive app permissions. So let's start with data leaks. So data leaks um, are threats that happen from apps that we use. So there are apps, although vouched by the Play Store um, or the App Store, there are still applications that may over collect information from us more than what they need it for. And the same at the same time, um, there are vulnerable applications that were not properly tested and may accidentally or may have been attacked and will accidentally leak um, personal information such as name, date of birth, credit card and bank information, location history, contact list, photos, and more. Right. The second one is open Wi-Fi. So in security, we say that open Wi-Fi or public Wi-Fi is an untrusted Wi-Fi, is a dangerous Wi-Fi because of the lack of controls that um, are available because everybody can access, so we're not restricting, we're not putting the right amount of security controls to make sure that we are making it safe or we're restricting access to users. So because it's a free for all, we don't know what the intentions of the other users are. Some may be using it for legitimate purpose, while some are using it to spy or to sniff information from other users. No? And also, there are what we call rogue access points. So, rogue access points are intentionally created access points near the real access points. So, for example, the Wi-Fi name is Starbucks. They will also create a fake Starbucks access point, a rogue access point, so people can connect to the rogue one, get internet access at the same time because it's owned um, by a criminal, a cyber criminal. They can collect and abuse the information that they are able to collect during this connection. So open Wi-Fi is another trend. The next would be phishing attacks. So phishing attacks is very common, not only through emails but text messages and even voice calls. But for mobile phones, okay, so okay, obviously if you have your email app, but mostly for SMS and other messaging apps, there are a lot of what we call smishing messages or phishing through SMS. Now in Pineda Cybersecurity, we usually send reminders about it, security awareness reminders like this one coming from a bank um, in the Philippines called BDO. So they have their legitimate notifications, and there is a fake bank text, and it's getting more and more um, realistic and believable for some of the other people, and they might accidentally press or click the link and give certain information. Um, the next is spyware. So when we say spyware, these are apps um, that allow over collection of information that can be used to to present various ads uh, that are related to your interest, or conducting digital surveillance through um, the smartphone. And there are apps that are not obvious, that contain spyware, but they are monitoring your activities and using it for ads and so much more. So that's another potential threat. Next would be your malicious apps, which can range from virus. You have your worm. You have your the more popular ones like ransomware. So usually this comes from um, free apps that allow you to access a lot of things. Allows you to the app will allow you to um, um, view videos for free or get something for free. Usually, if that's the offer, you're exchanging something in return. So, and you will see that there will be a slowdown in your machine or in your smartphone if there's a malware running on the background, and worse, it might get encrypted if it's a ransomware. So always follow your gut feel, and if it's the app is too good to be true, then it probably is. So you have to be careful. Next would be apps with weak security. So this is very common for applications that did not undergo security testing. So app developers might use weak encryption algorithms for one, okay, and then there are some that are related to logic issues, no? So logical errors or logical security problems that can only be unearthed and can be proven through a security test. So usually that would be the problem, and it would manifest later when it's already live in production, because a lot of people will might accidentally find it, or some other people would intentionally try to look for security weaknesses in the application. The next is poor password security. This is very common for some applications because you're balancing usability and security. But there is really a standard password policy that developers should be following. Like for instance, you should not be allowing a password with a very basic password such as 1234 or ABCD. But there are still applications that do that. There are applications that do not have an account lockout mechanism, which would have prevented any brute force attacks, which is a common security password security attack. So these things. Things that we need to watch out for. Next would be out of date devices. Um, well, partly um, it's the strategy of manufacturers to for you to buy their new products, but at the same time, because these are no longer supported because of the processing or the compute limitations and storage limitations, certain important updates like security and patch updates cannot be enforced to these old devices anymore. And at times, even if you have an antivirus, it will not be applicable to the old devices because of compatibility issues. Next would be identity theft. When we talk about identity theft, it's not only for celebrities, it can be anyone. So if you have public profiles, you have public information posted in social media, tendency is some people would try to take advantage of it by copying your pictures, downloading your pictures, download certain information, create another profile, and then solicit money, scam other people using your profile, and so on. That's another common threat, and this usually happens when you travel or you're sick. So when you travel, they would say the 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 cyber criminal would say that okay, we're stranded, we lost our passport, we need this money, etc., etc., and please send. So for friends who are concerned with you, then they will be sending out money. So things like those, identity theft. The next is cryptojacking. So when we talk about cryptojacking, we talk about mining, right? And when we do mining, we need processing power. So this happens when an organization's computing power or your personal computer, okay, without the knowledge, is used to mine cryptocurrencies such as the Bitcoin and Ethereum and others. Okay, so decreasing a device processing abilities and effectiveness. Like for example, you're just browsing your Facebook account, using your Facebook account, and it's very hot. It's like it's doing a lot of back end work, but you're just doing one thing. Then probably yeah, it's being used for cryptojacking. And then the last would be the excessive app permission. So when we talk about excessive app permissions, these are functions in your mobile phones that may be abused. Like for example, cameras, access to the cameras, access to your files, access to your GPS location, okay, and so on. And at times, we have to map it out, no, whether this app really requires your GPS location. If it's a navigation app, probably yes. But if it's a normal messaging app, then you don't need those. No? So it's important to review what permissions are allowed in this particular application. So you can also choose whether you can only allow it during this time or when you use the app or never, and so on. So you have to scrutinize it very well. Now, these are some of the mobile security threats. Let's now go to high level security areas for considerations. This is from IBM 2023. Okay, so even if this came from IBM, we're not promoting a specific brand. No? So we're using the concepts here for you to be able to understand, okay, these are some of the things that we need to do personally, on a personal level, or in an organizational level. So you have some of the solutions here. No? So you have enterprise mobility management or EMM. You have email security, endpoint protection. You have your VPN, secure gateways, and cloud access broker. So very very technical, but we'll discuss this on a high level only. Okay, so EMM. These are your tools, and technologies that maintain and manage how mobile and handheld devices are used within an organization for routine business operation. This is assuming, for example, that you have a company issued machine. So using an EMM, the organization's IT team or IT security team can um, create policies on which applications, for example, can you download, which applications can you run, what things you can do within the machine, what type of authentication should be used, setting up of the remote wipe facility, and so on and so forth. So that's one. No? Another is if you have your BYOD, you have your personal device, and they can issue um, access to or enablement of EMM even in your personal machine if you wish to connect to the corporate network in the guest, even in the guest network, because you are enforcing certain policies like you cannot download this, you cannot download that, you cannot use this um for, let's say, for you cannot use the dating apps and so on, and that protects you, the person, at the same time the organization, because they are enforcing security controls. um, they are enforcing security controls that will help uh, protect the assets in the organization. The second would be email security. So this is common for even for the usual BNM or brick and mortar solutions. So you have your well, there are a lot of phishing attacks. There are a lot of spam attacks through email. So email security would be very important, in identifying this and detecting and then blocking them, putting them in quarantine, blocking them off, and reporting phishing attempts so that the security team can provide resolutions for it. So adequate email protection would include your AV. Okay, so checking the contents of the email, the file attachments, okay, antivirus, anti-spam, image control, and content control services. So you can filter the types of files and the images that you can see or view. The next would be endpoint protection, of course. Even mobile devices would have some sort of protection. No? It can be through an antivirus. So you have your data loss prevention, endpoint encryption to encrypt corporate information, and endpoint security management. Okay, so DLP, for instance, would help the organization limit the information that goes out from this machine, this particular mobile device or smartphone. So for if the message is tagged as confidential, then certain policies will apply. Okay, certain people cannot send this outside. Okay, and so on. The next would be VPN. No? So when we talk about VPN, there's now, well, before there is corporate VPN used to make sure that for you to be able to access corporate files that is supposedly that can only be accessed internally, we can do that through the VPN. So VPN is a an exclusive tunnel, no, going to the corporate network. So to make sure that everything is exclusive and secured. So with a VPN, the company can control the traffic and monitor the activities that you are doing, such as there's lagging, okay, and it will authenticate, very secure authentication, because you have to put um, different layers of authentication, like your password, and then you have your authenticator, and then another level, etc., etc. And then we have secure gateway. No? A secure gateway is your protected connection, connecting anything to anything. So it's like a firewall. No? It enforces consistent security compliance policies for all users regardless of locations or device type use, and it keeps unauthorized traffic out of an organization's network. And usually, this is one of the first things that organizations would implement, because you want to make sure that any traffic that would go out and go in will have certain list of policies, security policies that will allow or deny traffic altogether. So, secure gateway. And last is your CASB, or the Cloud Access Broker. So, a CASB is a policy enforcement point between the users and your cloud service providers. Assuming you're using cloud, obviously a lot of organizations are using cloud. It monitors cloud-related activity and applies security, compliance, and governance rules around cloud-based resource use. So you have a lot of things, like you have your compliance, information protection, access control. mm, Um, actually, even your network connection, network connectivity. It helps you go to the fastest path. Okay? You have security, you have your organizational control, and then monitors your cloud visibility. So these are some of the high-level security considerations that we can use to improve the level of mobile security in the organization. Some of these can best be implemented in an organizational level. Some of these have a personalized version. Like for example, if we're talking about VPN, there's also a personal VPN that's available that you can use. You have email security for corporate, for enterprise, and there is also an email security for personal use. Because again, the types of threats differ. Okay, if you have a high valued target in the organization, probably the intellectual property there, versus of course targeting a single person, um, and we don't know a lot about it. We just know there is personal information, so therefore the threat level for the enterprise would be way higher compared to the um, to a personal level. That's why there are um, more options for security controls in an organizational level. So there, no? So you have this high level security considerations that we can implement. Okay? For further reading, so we're sharing the references for today's session, the top security threats, and IBM's mobile security. So this ends our short presentation on mobile security threats. So in the next module, we'll be talking about the mobile architecture for Android and iOS. See you, and thank you very much for listening.